Okra is a veggie that's not found in the northern U.S. as much as it is in the south. That's because okra plants like it warm, so they grow very well in the south. But they can actually be grown in any place where tomatoes, peppers, and melons can be grown. We're not sure where okra was first grown, but it came from Africa to North America on slave ships in the 1600s. And by the 1800s, it was a pretty common plant in the South. It's related to cotton, cocoa, and hibiscus. So if you've ever seen hibiscus flowers, you'll notice that okra flowers look just like them. They are big, beautiful, and showy. You could even grow okra just for the flowers. But why stop there? Because the fruit, the okra pod, is delicious. The part of the plant that we eat is the immature seed pod, just the same as we do when we eat peas. Okra is the most tender when it's picked small. Some people don't like okra because it's slimy. Well, the pods produce this slime, which is actually a soluble fiber, and we all need more soluble fiber. But if you cook okra with an acidic food like tomatoes, the tomatoes cut the slime. And that could be why many gumbos, which are thick soups that are classic dishes in the South, are often a tomato base. In other words, the acid helps to dissolve that soluble fiber. That's the same as happens in our guts, in our stomachs. The young leaves of the okra plant are edible, and they can be stir-fried, just like beet greens, or used in salads raw. And the beautiful flowers are edible too, by the way. The fibrous stems of the plant are not edible, but they actually are used industrially to reinforce some plastic products, and they're being developed for use as biodegradable food packaging. Wow, the amazing okra plant. So many uses. You can see that it grows very tall, up to 8 feet tall, actually, and that the plants are bushy, so they need to be planted 3 to 4 feet apart. Fortunately, you don't need a lot of plants because one plant will produce 20 to 30 okra, and if you keep it picked, it will just keep producing more. Here in the north, okra plants should be started indoors or bought as seedlings because they do need that warm soil, 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it's big and producing okra, then it can tolerate temperatures below 60, so it does fine in the fall.
This recipe is a nutritional powerhouse in so many different ways. Corn gets a bad rap for having too much sugar, but really, it's a whole grain. Yes, it has carbohydrates, but just like any other grain, that doesn't have to be a bad thing, especially when they are in the presence of other complex carbs like fiber. The peppers, especially the red pepper, provides a lot of vitamin C, a vitamin that's important for our immune function. Okra is also rich in fiber and a lot of vitamins and minerals like vitamin C, A, and K, iron, and magnesium. As with all vegetables, they're loaded with antioxidants. Today we're making okra and corn. We shot this in the wintertime, so our okra and corn were not fresh, but frozen works just fine too. We've got our onions, our bell peppers, and you can pick any bell pepper color you'd like, salt, pepper, cayenne pepper, thyme, paprika, oregano, and basil. Now don't stress if you don't have all of those spices and herbs, work with whatever you've got because the recipe is very versatile. Here I'm mixing together my Creole seasoning. This recipe will make way more than you actually need, but then you'll have leftover seasoning that can be pretty versatile in the kitchen. Sometimes I'll use this seasoning on scrambled eggs in the morning too. Again, don't stress if you don't have every ingredient for the seasoning, but my mix today contains onion powder, garlic powder, dried oregano, basil, and thyme, paprika, and cayenne. As you can see, I'm not being entirely accurate with my measurements, but that's okay. And then you can add your 3 tablespoons of salt and 1 tablespoon of pepper. And now we'll mix it all together, and that's our Creole seasoning. If you happen to have a seasoning at home that says Cajun seasoning, that is also a good substitute. Really, any seasoning with a little spicy kick to it would go well with this recipe. We're using a whole onion today. If you've watched some of our other videos, you've seen how we cut our onions. We'll lay the onion on a flat surface, cut it in half, and then slice as an easy way to get uniform pieces. Now you can add 2 cups of fresh corn to your bowl. Don't forget your 2 cups of okra. You can add your 2 bell peppers. I'm using green and red for some contrasting colors, but whatever peppers you have is just fine. If you don't have peppers, no worries. The recipe works without them. Look at those colors. Don't forget the olive oil. The recipe says 3 tablespoons of olive oil, though I'm probably adding a little bit more than that. It's totally whatever your preference is. Go ahead and add your 3 tablespoons of Creole seasoning. I would mix as you add each tablespoon in. The mix is a bit spicy, so if this is the first time you're trying Creole seasoning, maybe add a little less for your first taste. If you know you're a spice fan, go ahead and add more. Spices are another great way to elevate your dishes from a nutrition standpoint, especially if you're mixing them yourself at home. All spices add antioxidants and small amounts of minerals and vitamins. Now we can spread the mix on a baking sheet and we'll stir it around about halfway through its baking time. And then we can pop it in the oven. We're at the halfway mark and things are smelling great. Mix it around a little bit and then pop it back in the oven for another 10 minutes. And that's our okra and corn all done up. I made mine into a meal with some rice and kidney beans I had left over, as well as some cod. I used the rest of the Creole seasoning to spice that up as well. I put some lime juice over the whole dish to give it a little freshness, and I happen to have some cilantro too. I also picture this going well with shrimp, especially if you use the leftover Creole seasoning. Enjoy!